Hello guys, in this After Effects tutorials, I'm going to show you how you can create a beautiful spotlight neon logo animation in 3D like this one. So stick around, let's get started. In this After Effects tutorials, we're going to learn how to create a realistic neon light strobe using native plugins inside Adobe After Effects.
Yeah, boy.
We're also going to learn how to create a volumetric spotlight effect without using the native CC spotlight effect, because in my own opinion, the CC spotlight effect in Adobe After Effects is not flexible at all.
What?
So to follow up with this tutorial, you can download the project file in the description. This project file, I made it in two versions. The one you can have access to everyone is the one with this logo only. If you want the one with the text, and the one I made into vertical format that you can use on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube shorts, so you have to be a member to be able to have access to that one. Otherwise, you can still follow up with the tutorial when you download the other project file. It's still the same thing, but it just have an extension when you are a member. So now in Adobe After Effects, we're going to start by creating a new composition. You can name this anything you like. So I'm going to leave the resolution to 1920 by 1080. Then we're going to leave this to 30 frames per second. Then the entire duration for this composition is going to be 10 seconds. Then you hit OK. Navigate to where you have your logo, then drag and drop it into the project manager window. That is gonna import this. Make sure you set the option to footage, then you hit OK. So drag and drop it into your timeline. Then I'm gonna hit S to scale this down. This is gonna depend on also what the size of your logo is. So I'm gonna Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose it. I'm gonna name this logo holder. So make sure you move all attributes to the new composition, then you hit OK. Now let's create the neon strobe effect using the native effect we have inside Adobe After Effects. So we're going to select our logo holder composition layer, then we're going to search for the effect called Vegas. This effect reminds me of the city called Las Vegas. So that is by the way. So let's make some changes to make this look like our neon strobe. So now first let's set the blend mode to transparent. Then we're going to set the segment to 1. Then we're going to expand the image contour and set the channel to value. Then we're going to set the threshold to 32. So let's set the color to gray. Then you hit OK. So let's make width 1, and we're going to make hardness 1. Then we're going to max out all these figures right here to the maximum we can get. Yes, this is getting close to what we want, so we're going to add another effect called Simple Choker. Set the value to -2. We're going to add a glow effect. Let's collapse all other options so that we can see what we are doing. So we're going to duplicate this glow effect, Ctrl D on your keyboard to do that. That is going to add this. So we're going to add to the radius. We just need a simple glow here. I think this is okay. If you like, you can remove the glow effect. This is still going to work. Now let's start to make this look like a realistic neon. So the first thing we're going to do is to make this a 3D layer. You're going to understand why in a moment. So we're going to go back to the project manager window. We're going to drag this logo onto the timeline. Here I'm going to scale down very much to a smaller version of this. I'm going to put this right to the top left corner of the screen, or the preview window right here. This is because I want to use the colors right here to create the effect of the neon on this logo, meaning this is going to be our color palette. So I'm going to lock it so that I cannot accidentally move it. So what I'm going to do now is to right click on the timeline, go to new and create a new light object. So I'm going to set this to spotlight. Then I'm going to make sure everything here, this one is smooth, cast shadow is enabled, intensity 200, the cone angle 71, then spotlight. So I'm going to set the color now to the first angle right here. So I'm going to set that color, then I'm going to hit OK. So you see automatically it has started changing the color of the neon. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move this to the right so that it can only reveal this part. Now let's create an animation for this light. So now we're going to keep our animation everything within 1 second. So move like 10 frames forward in time, then hit T on your keyboard to reveal the opacity of the light, then set a keyframe. Actually, on the light layer, when you hit T on the keyboard, you're not gonna see the opacity. Instead, you're gonna see the light intensity. Then set a keyframe for that. Then we're gonna go back to 0 and change the intensity value to 0. So we're gonna move forward in time to this point and make a keyframe. Then move to close to 1 second forward in time and change the value of the intensity again to 0. Let's set a preview to about 5 seconds. Then if you preview this now, this is what you're gonna have, a flash of the neon. Ctrl D on your keyboard to duplicate the light. Then I'm gonna offset it forward in time. Then I'm gonna move this right here so that I can reveal the next part of the logo. This is the time to reveal this part, to flash the under part. Then we're gonna go into the light settings, go to layer, then light settings. So we're gonna change this color now to this purple right here. This purple at the bottom, that is what we're gonna see. If you like, you can select the blue because it's still within the same region. Then you hit OK. So now it is now purple as well. So I'm gonna repeat this process to light 3 more spots here. I have repeated the process and created additional lights to spark up the neon reflections, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the English to use right here. Unfortunately, this is not an English class, so let's proceed. So I'm going to hide this color palette. So if you hit spacebar on your keyboard to preview, this is what you have. Now let's create a volumetric spotlight that will flash on this. So, but usually we have a native plugin or a native effect called CC Spotlight, but I have tried to use that and it is not giving me the realistic volumetric light I would like to use for this type of logo reveal animation. So let me show you how I was able to achieve a realistic volumetric spotlight right inside Adobe After Effects. So what I'm going to do is to Ctrl N on my keyboard to create a new composition. So I'm going to name this Spotlight 1 and the timing to be at most 4 seconds. So I'm going to leave the BG to be this color and then I will hit OK. So that is going to give me this. You know, what we are creating is in 3D. So you have to bear that in mind while creating this volumetric spotlight. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go to this shape layer right here. That is this tool right here. Then I'll pick the ellipse tool. I'm going to draw a small oval shape like this. So I'm going to set the stroke to none and set the color to white. Then I'm going to hold down the Control key and double click on this anchor tool. That is going to move the anchor point to the center. So what I'm going to do is to hit R on my keyboard. Then I'll rotate this to look like it's pointing to this angle by the right below here. So I'm just simply going to move it somewhere here. Then I'll hit S on the keyboard. I need to scale this down a bit. I'll scale it down to this spot right here. Hit Enter key to rename this light source. So right click on your timeline, go to New, create a new solid layer. So we're going to name this Ray. You can name it Ray 1 because we're going to need some couple of these. Then I'll make comp size. I'll choose this to be white. then you hit OK. So hit T on your keyboard to drop the opacity. I'm going to drop the opacity to this level where I can still see the light source beneath it. Then I'm going to hit the pen tool. I'm going to take care of this from here to here, here, and here, then here, here. I just simply drew something about the size of my light source. Do not worry that it is like this. We can hide this mask visibility. Then we're going to hit MM on the keyboard to reveal the mask property. So I'm going to increase the feather, the mask feather, until I have something soft as this. Something like this is okay. So I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to really trade the opacity. So I'm going to set this down a bit. Now what we need to do now is to make this realistic, but before that I'm going to duplicate this layer again. Then when I duplicate this ray one, then the bottom one, I'm going to hit M to remove the mask that we had on this one. So that is going to give us this. So I'm going to still pick the pen tool again to draw a triangular kind of shape to this light. I can pull back in a bit to see everything. Make sure everything is outside the layer. That is going to give you this. So I'm going to increase the feather. Let's move in so that we can see the feather. So I'm going to increase the feather until I have a very nice fall off like this. Beautiful. So I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to drop the opacity a bit further. So if you fit this to comp now, and then we'll hide the mask opacity, this is going to give us a very nice spotlight fall up. But we still need to do something else to keep this very realistic. So we can increase the feather for this, for the top one, a bit more, and we can decrease our light source slightly downward. Then what we're going to do now with this mask still selected, that is the first top ray, we're going to select the ellipse tool. Because of this hard fall off right here, we're going to create a soft fall off. So we're going to come here and create a mask. Hit Ctrl and Shift to keep it rounded. Make sure you draw it as large as possible to this spot. So we're going to go here, the mask tool, we're going to set it to subtract. Then we expand the mask tool property. Then we're going to increase the feather. But to see what we are doing, first fit this to screen preview. Then you hide the mask visibility. You can see it still has a hard shape right here. So increase the feather until it is soft enough to be realistic enough fall off right into the spotlight. I think this is beautiful. So if you are not satisfied with this, you can always select the mask, then enable mask visibility, and then you can always move the mask downward to create a further fall off or something, any spot you may like. So I'm going to keep it right here. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this bigger fall off. So I'll select the layer, then I'll select the ellipse tool. I'll also create a very large mask. Hit Ctrl and Shift. Somewhere here should be okay to the center. Beautiful. So I'm going to set this mask tool to subtract, and I also expand it to increase the feather. But before we go to our main composition, there is one more thing we're going to do right here. You know, every of that flashlight have to have a color, but we cannot set the color right here, because if we set the color right here, we're going to need to come back, make a duplicate of this and keep changing the color. But I found a way around this. So instead of coming to create a new one, to create a new color, we're going to use an effect to always keep changing the color of our duplicate. So now we're going to select the light source and then go into the solid color and make it black. You understand why when we go back to the other composition. Do not worry that you cannot see it right here. So we're going to go back to our main composition, then we're going to drop this light right on top of everything that we have right here. You can see we have something like this. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to move the anchor point to the tip of the light source. So I'm going to move this anchor point. I hit Y on the keyboard to activate the anchor point tool. So I want to put it right here. That way I'll be able to control the rotation or whatever I want to do. So let's add the tint effect. So now we're going to set, this is where we need to enable our color palette again. Once you have this enabled, then select our light. So we want to set the first light that we have here. Let's move our timeline to this spot where we have the first color. So we select this white here, we replace it with this color that we have. You see it is now that color. So this is why I made that light source black, because we're going to make this black now to white. That way our light source remains white. So I'm going to add another effect. I'm going to add hue and saturation. Then I'm going to increase the master saturation up there. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to reveal the opacity. So I'm going to align the keyframes with the first keyframe I have right here on the bottom. So here I'll set the keyframe. Then I'll go back to the first keyframe where the lights are moving. Then I'll set the keyframe value to 0. So if you preview now, you will see that as the light flashes, the neon reveals. So what I'm going to do now is to duplicate this again. This is the second light, so I'll hit U on the new volumetric spotlight and I'll move it to align it here. Hold down Shift to align it. So I'm going to move it right here. So I'm going to hit R on the keyboard to rotate this. I want it to rotate up. Then I'll move it down. Beautiful. So what I need to do now is to reveal the color palette again. On the tint color right here, I'm going to set it to the bottom purple. So if you preview now, that is going to give you this. So I'm going to repeat this same process to achieve the rest of the flashing. So after duplicating the volumetric spotlight that I created to match the flashing of the spotlight on the logo, this is what we got. Beautiful. Now it is time to reveal the main logo. So to do that, we're going to first of all duplicate one of these main lights, not the volumetric one, the spotlight effect here, the main spotlight layer. So we're going to hit Ctrl D on the keyboard to duplicate this. Then we're going to hit U on the keyboard to reveal the keyframes. We're going to remove all these last opacity keyframes that we have here. So we're going to pull in back and make sure this is revealing the entire logo. If you reveal the logo at this point, it's going to affect the true color of the logo. So what we're going to do is to go to the layer setting, which is the light settings. Make sure it is selected. Go to layer, then light settings. So we're going to change this to white. Then you hit OK. What we're going to do now is to duplicate the logo holder composition right here at the bottom. Ctrl D on your keyboard to do that. So we're going to remove all the effects. Add a noise effect. So this noise amount is okay. That is about 16. The next thing I'm going to add now is the bevel alpha. I'm going to set the thickness to 4. So beautiful. This has made our logo look 3D like. So what I'm going to do next is to reveal the logo. So if you come right here to this point where everything shows, so I'm going to add a linear wipe. I will set a keyframe for the transition completion. So let's find where we start to see the logo itself. So let's leave it here. We're going to increase the feather. So we just need to adjust the timing. Then we're going to move this keyframe backward in time. Then I think we also need to move this light, this final light here, a little bit backward so that it can show on time, because there's a dark spot in between. So right click on your timeline right here, go to new and add a new camera. Hit OK. So right click again on your timeline, go to new and create a new null object. This is going to be our camera controller. Then I'll make it 3D. Then make the camera a child of the null object. Then I'll hit P on my keyboard for the camera control. Then set a keyframe. Then I'll move back in time to this point and then pull the Z axis inward. Of course, this might vary depending on the logo you want to use. The colors, the light, the arrangement of the light is not written on stone. This is just a guide for you to know how it is created. Then you can also add a text below here, like a tagline or the name of the company. That is all optional. So this is what you have as the final result. If you add a text below it, you can use any style of animation for the text animation. So this is how you can create a neon spotlight 3D logo reveal animation right inside Adobe After Effects using the native plugins. So to download this, you can follow the link in the description to get the project file. If you learned something new on this video, please hit the like button. That will enable the algorithm to suggest this to more people. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me in the comment section and I'll reply to all questions as quick as I can. If you like the video, leaving a comment is all a support. So with whatever way you are able to support me, I highly appreciate you. So until I see you again on the next one, my name is SSB Otaru from MotionDigit Studios.